Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time it's an autumn roundup of recent eBay sales, and we'll start off with some penguin. And I think it's safe to say that the collectible vintage penguin market is very much alive and kicking. This particular copy, yes, it's very, very rare, but not impossible to find. And this one, well, almost £900 at 855.31. Absolutely mad. This one was another one. Yes, once again, very, very scarce, a wartime crime, but in quite the condition. That last book, by the way, didn't have a back cover. This one is all there, but it's been heavily taped. Still over £700, which is incredible. Much more than you might think for an old penguin like that. Yeah, incredible money, but scarce. So that was 747. Then the very same book, a little bit later, 613, this copy. And this is far better than that one we've just seen. Still a very tatty spine, and you do tend to find that with the wartime crime. The spines don't tend to hold up. Beautiful copy of The Hobbit here. Many bids on this one. Very square, robust, looks almost unread. That lovely cover by Pauline Baynes. Very nice indeed, that one. One and only printing. Nice to see it on the shelf there with other Tolkiens and SF and fantasy. Yeah, £250. This was a big job, like 118 low-grade penguin crimes. I would imagine there's a mixture of firsts and reprints, but that lot went for a couple of hundred. Certainly a few there are a little worse for wear. Some I would have just stuck straight in the bin, to be honest, but there you go. If you're a reader, that probably represents good value for money. Yeah, nice little job lot, that. Same seller, but these are more recent ones, 50s and 60s. You can see by the spines there. Same money, possibly the same buyer. Just someone who was very, very keen to be reading penguin crime. There's lots of classic stuff in there. I doubt they were bought by a collector because of the condition, but you never know. Yeah, some appalling books there, condition-wise, but maybe good enough for somebody. Yeah, 200 or best offer. This is one of the rare Forces book clubs, Country Life. Thankfully it's one I've got, but I always keep an eye on these to monitor what they're actually selling for. This is by H.E. Bates, who himself is collectible. And this one still went for a little bit more than I was expecting. I mean, anything over 100, I think, on these is good. Yeah, I mean, not perfect by any means. I mean, it's not in the greatest condition. They never really are. But yeah, 156, wow. This is a scarce Penguin Q series. It's a miscellaneous book. It's a huge book, which originally came in a slipcase. Now, I couldn't actually see the slipcase pictured here unless I missed it. So something to watch out for, that it does come slipcased, a bit like a folio book. It's a book of photos, as you can see. Michael Avalon, there's the Everly brothers. I mean, he would photograph, you know, famous people of the era. And the photographs are very iconic in a lot of cases. The book is great, a very large format, and but published by Penguin in the UK, and consequently, because it didn't really fit into any main series, it came out as a Q, so miscellaneous. Yeah, No sign of a dust slipcase there. Price was about right, 130. So this was a run of 42 king penguins, which went for £112. On the face of it, quite nice, but there was some duplication. But there were one or two scarcer books in there. Life in an English Village, for example. A few books quite low grade, which once again I probably wouldn't have kept. A favourite of mine there, the Bayeux Tapestry. But they do definitely vary in condition. Life in an English Village there looks like it had no spine at all on it. And that was the one which was worth the money. There was a couple of Inselbuchers there, the German ones that the king penguins were based on. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I suppose, once again, it's maybe a starter collection for somebody. Or someone who perhaps just wanted it for the content, rather than collectability. 17 bits. This was a surprise, because I didn't think this was this sort of money, £107. Admittedly, a much more above average copy of a book, which doesn't always turn up in great shape. It's usually really foxed. So this was, I have to admit, a particularly nice example of this one, but still, raised an eyebrow there, £107. This is another Forces Book Club. It just had the one bid. I mean, it's fallen to bits, but £104, very, very expensive for the book in this condition, in my opinion. But there you go. There's not that many of them around, so, you know, some people are prepared to pay that sort of money. I wouldn't have paid that for that. Another scarce penguin. This one was hastily withdrawn, but copies did go out to bookshops initially. Everything that was left at the warehouse was taken by Alan Lane to his farm and promptly burnt. The cartoons are very controversial. Ciné was a satirist, French satirist. The book is quite shocking and consequently hard to find these days. £68 for that. Once again, probably twice what it's worth in that condition. This is an Egyptian. So the Egyptians are collected in their own right. There's about 30 odd of them. 50 to 60 now does seem to be the going rate for some of these, with the crime ones touching 100 a piece. So rare, and generally they don't turn up very often. Printed locally on very poor quality paper. Scarce. £63, that one. Here's a much better copy of Life in an English Village. Not perfect, but not bad. £43 for this one. Still my favourite King Penguin of all. Very, very nice book, this. Edward Baldwin did the artwork. Very nice. Now, the Quatermass books, Penguin did all three, and they've started to really pick up in value, these, along with Penguin SF in general. I think people are really enjoying collecting Penguin SF, and certainly something I've always loved. So this one here, yeah, look, £36. Here's Quatermass Experiment, which was the first one. And this one went over 30 with a piece out the bottom of the cover. Quite the surprise. And there is one more, of course, Quatermass in the Pit, which I have captured. It may be a little bit later in this video. Another hot one, seems to be also quite in demand, this one. Tiger Tiger. Yep, quite sought after, that one. This is a services edition, not an uncommon one, but once again it went for over £30, which I was quite surprised at, with a faded spine. But it is what it is. They don't turn up that often, but this one does turn up, so And this is one of the Alan Lane Christmas books, probably the most common one because there was 2,000 of them. They're all numbered and signed by Sir Alan Lane. And this was basically a report on the court proceedings for the trial of Lady Chatterley. Nicely illustrated by Paul Hogarth. There's a paperback edition which came out as a Penguin special, which is just a few pounds. But it's a good read, this, and a fascinating bit of publishing history. And the signed one is nice. Once again, that came in a dust wrapper, which that one was missing. This was nice, and probably a bargain is the Penguin Hansard. So there was only 6 published, and they look in quite nice condition. So to go for £26 wasn't too bad at all. A couple of those are very scarce in top condition. I know they're not all perfect, but they're not bad. They're better than average. That was a pretty good buy, that one. And here's that final Quatermass book, $25.99. I mean, it was only a year or two ago. I sold a set of these for £30. I feel I woefully undersold those. Now, this is about right. I've seen this set, the 3 volumes, go for £40 to £50. This was a VG Plus set for 25, all with the same original owner name. And this was interesting. J.G. Ballard. This is an American copy with a cents price on the back, $1.95. David Pelham's iconic cover. Never seen that before. A USA edition with the British jacket. Another scarce American one, and I didn't think this was too bad. I've never ever seen one in the flesh. I've got a run of these, but I haven't got this one. I'm nowhere near completing the American runs. I've got maybe half, if that. So expensive to import books from the States at the moment, it really is. But there you go. That's a scarce one. This is a Frederick Forsyth's first book before he became best-selling author, Dare the Jackal and what have you. He was a reporter, and this is his one on the Biafra story. That spine should be bright red. It's completely faded. The book has also been laminated, yet still it's sold for £20, but it is Forsyth's first book and sought after in that regard. Copy in that state, I would have put about half that on. This is a later Puffin picture book, so it's a reprint. This first came out in like 1969 as a picture Puffin, and this is the second reprint. And interesting to note that even this one has sold for £20. I think these picture Puffins are woefully undervalued, the early ones, at the moment, because not a lot's been written about them. Another book that's hard to find in nice condition. So you see the cover there has the keyhole, which is die cut. And you see that hole there. It's always cut and ripped because, it was so delicate. So look out for that one. Another early book by a best-selling author, Len Dayton. He also worked for Penguin at the time, but this is the Len Dayton French cookbook. He did do another one which came out as a Penguin handbook, but that's the scarcer of the two. Another favourite movie tie-in. Penguin didn't do lots of movie tie-ins, but this is one of my favourites. Audrey Hepburn cover, first printing. In that sort of condition, that's about right. Tip-top shape on that one, I reckon £20 for a mint one. This one sold for more than it usually does. About 10 to 12 is okay on this one, but I believe the spine is faded. He also did London, Nairn's London. Both books quite collectible travel books. Worth picking up if you see these. Yeah, Nairn's London and Nairn's Paris. By any means necessary, another book. This one went for a reasonable price. I've seen these go for as much as 30. It's not an A format and it's not a B format. It's somewhere in between. That wasn't a bad price for one in that nick. 16. Yeah, worth picking up that. This was just a nice pairing. I mean, individually the books you know, it should be had for £5 or £6 maximum. Quite nice to see them all together. If it was me, I would have just tried to have rounded up a copy of The Invisible Man. So you've got the trilogy, which, but that's obviously crime. £16. This was much more expensive than it generally goes for. £25. I mean, that's, you've overpaid for that, I'm afraid. Beautiful edition, as is Through the Looking Glass. And they do a 1-volume edition later on as well. All three of them are nice. This was insane. £350, 26 bids for this one. I mean, I thought, what the hell? I mean, this is not an uncommon book. I mean, the first printing, there's 3 variations, but it had a run of 50,000 copies, I believe. The second printing with the original jacket is actually scarcer, with only 25,000 printed. That's insane money for that. Here's another one. Look, half price. Admittedly not quite as sharp as the one we've just seen, but believe me, it's not an uncommon book. It's just a book that's in demand. Here's a little selection. I mean, Live and Let Die is okay, but it's got the writing on the front. The star of the show here is Moonraker, and that's the first printing of that one. And that's certainly not too bad a copy. To be honest, the person who bought that didn't do too badly. There are a couple of variations of the first of Live and Let Die. Can't really see which version it is. And they threw that in for good luck. Well, I would have thrown it in the bin. 4 copies of the Pan Book of Horror Stories. It says first prints, but at least one of them is a reprint. The thing about these 4 early ones is the condition of them. Much, much better than average. Great covers on them. Look at these spines. Look at that. Very nice indeed. But one of them is a 4th print. I think that's probably book 2. And the other 3 were firsts. There you go. 50 odd quid. That's about right, I think, for those now, in that condition. This is a book that's a bit of a sleeper. Now, this is the original jacket. It's the first Pan edition. And this book is creeping up slowly but surely in value. It just is. This particular one, Restaurant at the End of the Universe, is not far behind it. But the true first of this, because it was reprinted so many times, is not easy to find, particularly in nice condition. £52 that. Wow. Here's another one, first stroke second. So it's actually a reprint with the original jacket. It's still gone for good money. Second print. Pretty crazy, that. For what is a book that isn't hard to find. I mean, they are out there. So keep your eyes peeled for that one and The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, because they are sought after and good little investments at the moment. This was nice. It was in America, but it worked out at £26. It's the British Pan edition of The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. Wouldn't mind getting this one. I've got his other early books, but not got this. Don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh, but I'd like to get that. I thought this wasn't too bad. I mean, it's £29.95 or best offer. We can only assume it's gone for very near that. I thought that was a very nice copy for that money of a book which is quite reasonably hard to find in first print, that one. Couldn't quite make this one out. It's an unpriced copy. It says it's been advertised as an export, but that would have just had a sticker stuck on it. I mean, how it's gone for that sort of money, I really don't know. Crazy. £36. Insane. £22.99 or best offer. It's the pair of the Pan lozenge. Harlan Ellison, not in particularly great shape. But if you wanted, those particular editions and you were collecting the Pan lozenge, I suppose you might have, pulled the trigger. Seems a bit rich for me personally. I wouldn't have paid that. But there you go. There you go. Here is the set, and it does show that you can get them at a reasonable price. This was on a buy now though, £13.95, and someone swooped in to get the first 3 books. 8th printing though of book number 1. I think that was the first printing of the 2nd and 3rd though, so that's not bad, is it? You'd be okay to read those without panicking. Just a great book, this one. Great book. Probably my favourite edition of this one. I've got the hardback first of this, and you know, it's rubbish compared to that. That is just iconically good. I love it. Very, very nice. Another one. This chap had some really nice science fiction, and once again, my favourite of all the jackets I've got for the Furies, and that's W. Francis Phillips. Beautiful. Here's another one, same seller. Look, this only went for £10.78. It must have gone on a buy it now. This is a £50 book. You see it sell for that all the time, and look at the condition of it. Slight faded spine, which you see on that one, quite common. Still very good price for that. Now, I had to talk a little bit about this. So this is from Colin Larkin. He's got his collection of 553 pieces of original pan cover artwork. It's now up for sale. A couple of £100,000 with 520 of the accompanying books. He will not split. So if you've got a couple of £100,000 lying around and you want 553 pieces of original pan art, including Agatha Christie's, everything that was featured in Cover Me, the book, the great book on pan artwork, it is for sale at the moment. It just needs, I think, someone who's very rich to go in, buy it, and then sell the pieces individually. You will make your money back. There's Agatha Christie's in there, there's key science fiction. I personally will pay £1,000 for the latter day at Colditz. So, Colin, if you're watching this one, do bear me in mind. So yeah, didn't want you to miss out if you've got a couple of £100,000 in the bank and looking to buy that original artwork collection, including those rare Agatha Christie's. Speaking of Agatha Christie, I thought with all the attention on Tom Adams recently, I thought I'd just have a little look at the market and see how Tom Adams was holding up. So this was a lot from the States. It had a nice selection of the American Tom Adams jackets, which are scarce in my opinion, particularly in the UK, and a selection of the Fontana British ones, plus some other books as well. They weren't all Tom Adams, but this was just a nice general lot of Christie's, you know, nice iconic books really from that great period in the late 60s, 70s and 80s. Some very nice ones there. There's Georgie with her bit of driftwood. That was the cover she was on, I believe. And you know, it's a fair old collection. And, you know, I don't think the price was too bad on this particular, because you got a lot for your money. Yeah, 150 quid for that lot. This is another job lot. This went for 140 or best offer. This was a British lot, 128 Christie's. An instant collection. Bit of duplication as you would expect. Some of them very low grade, but it is what it is. I'm sure someone was happy with that lot. Here's another 78 books for £125. And you can go onto eBay pretty much at any time and you can pick up a lot like this. And if you buy enough of them, and if you buy, you know, carefully, you can pretty much get all the Tom Adams covers without too much trouble. But you will get some duplicates, that's for sure. And I had this lot bookmarked for a long time. It was 40 French Agatha Christie's majority of them with Tom Adams jackets, not all of them, but most of them. And this wasn't too bad. I mean, this would have worked out at about £60, and I was very, very tempted. I have got the French copy of The Third Girl, because it's got the error, le troisième fil, the same as the British error. But yeah, I was very tempted with this lot, and I had it bookmarked for ages, and I'm glad someone stepped in and bought it, because I just don't really have the room for, too many foreign editions, as much as they were really attractive, and they really are very unusual and lovely if you're a Tom Adams collector. This is from Gryphon Books. What a price for this, £93 in British money. Admittedly, it's perhaps the best copy I've ever seen. I mean, it looks unread. And this is Gary Lavisi over in the States, and his quality is amazing, but that's insane money. Absolutely insane for that. This was nice. This is from Door. It's the full set of 10 Isaac Asimov's The Great SF Stories, one for each year from 39 to 48. I don't think I've ever seen them offered in a set before. I've got about 4 editions of these. They're pretty hard to find in Britain. So $10 a piece, or $100 for the lot. I didn't think that was too bad. Only number 1 looks to be in a bit rough shape. This was a surprise, £75 in British money for the Panther edition of The Dispossessed. Quite surprised at that, but it's got a reasonable spine. Yeah, the Panther first. I guess it could be the paperback first. There you go. This is a very nice condition Ace Double. I'm a big fan of these. I love them. Haven't picked any up for a while. This one, I mean, it's over £50 this is sold for. Now, I know, the Philip K. Dick alone, is the cost of admission, but it wasn't like that sharper copy. So, I don't know. Very nice, but it seems to have gone for big money, that. This is from Zardoz Books, All You Need Is Books, and this is the reissue of John W. Campbell's famous The Thing from Outer Space. What a great cover. I prefer that cover to the original, with the thing in ice, Fantastic. And this one, wow, never seen anything quite like it. £34 this one went for. Look at that. The Martian Sex Pot. Ha! A Jade book. So obviously a sleaze title with a science fiction bent. Got to be worth a look, really, isn't it? Dear, oh dear. Hilarious Adventures in Space and the Future. This is an interesting book. Seeds of Chaos, What Mass Bombing Really Means. Vera Brittain, published during the war. Pretty rare, that. Sadly, Zardoz, you only get a scan of the cover. That's your lot. A Fairly Scarce Early Cherry Tree, book number 20. This one came out, I believe, in 1936. Tip-top shape. I suspect it was from the Eric Gadd collection, but I don't know. Another one by Marjorie Allingham under the pseudonym Maxwell March. Don't see that very often. This was a Collins White Circle in the cerise colouring. And a Collins Crime Club here, number 111C. This one went for £30, which seems very, very expensive. But there you go, no dust wrapper. They dropped at that point. Some other great British gangster ones here from Zardoz, £24 for Thrill Girl. Look at that. Just go through a few that he had that caught my eye. This was Hutchinson. Possibly a Reginald Heed cover he's put on this one. I don't think it is. £23. An undressed heroine. Not one I know. And this was an American Agatha Christie from 1942. This was the Jonathan Press ones, Jonathan Mystery. You don't see these very often, although Morris had a little run of these in. £20, about right for that. And this was just a fun one. Office Wife, it's a Beacon, Richard Grant. Nice condition copy, once again, £20 on that one. That sold for. A Candid Story. This was nice, £300 in British money for the set of Clive Barker's Books of Blood, published by Sphere. These are the first printings. An above average, high quality set that, and you don't see them like that. You do not see them in that condition. So as a Barker collector, that's what you're looking for. I think they were PBOs, and there we are, the full run of 6. Never ever see those. Then a few Guy and Smith job lots of just eye-opening. He is hot. He is hot. So this grouping of 8 books went for £240. And we've got a few job lots. They're all a little bit different. But Guy and Smith is quite hot at the moment, as we will see. Now, we've seen it in the past with some of the Crabs books making insane money. But that was 23 bids on that. Here's another lot of 8 books. These went for 211, a different seller this time round. I draw your attention to one of the books there, which is called Doom Flight, which we will have a look at separately in a minute. Oh yeah, Alligators was signed. This is a nice job lot of Door. £140 for 103 Door books. I'd say that's pretty good. And looking at it at a glance, only a handful of yellow spines, of faded yellow spines rather. Most of them were quite bright. Now, admittedly, the titles aren't all drop dead, oh, I've got to have that one, but there are some in there, you know, so I think whoever bought that particular lot did very well. I think they've done all right there. That was probably on a buy it now. Yeah, £140. Here's another Guy and Smith lot, 29 bids with £195. Once again, I draw your attention to Doom Flight, which was part of this collection. Got a few of those myself that I've come across. I always pick him up now. Always. And here we are, look. This one sold for £190, Doomflight, with 5 bids. So my question to you is this particularly rare? Why is this particular book so sought after? The copies in those job lots were better than this, which is, you know, very wishy-washy. It's not signed. I mean, it's a really poor condition used book. Why has it gone for that money? This was a beautiful lot, 66 quid for a load of gothic romance. Not my thing, but, you know, I admire the cover art. I think it's fantastic. It was an art in itself. And I love gothic romance. I think they're fantastic to look at. The woman in her negligee, running away, half looking back, running from a castle or a mansion with one solitary light on in the background. That's your gothic romance in a nutshell. Low grade condition, obviously a reader's copy, but you got a lot for your money there for 66 quid. Now, you're probably familiar with the books, the Robert Laurie books. They're quite collectible in their own right. This was the first 5. What I've never seen before was this slipcase set. Admittedly looking the worse for wear. I mean, it really is, but very rare. And it's kept the books in quite nice condition, which is always the bonus with slipcase sets. They look after the books. And once again, this book continues to astound. This is the Panther first printing of Crash. $150 or £112 this is sold for, and it's not even in tip-top shape. It is a key book. It really is becoming like a key vintage paperback. The Crabs, look, if anything, this was cheap because we've seen Human Sacrifice go for a lot more. Just a touch over 100 quid for those 6. I mean, maybe that's right. Maybe that's not too bad. But they sold plenty, didn't they? I mean, they are out there. So this one went for 672. It's a key Harlan Ellison. Awfully presented. I mean, awful. The sellers put it on like a cushion which is covered in hair, which is awful, but it is a signed book. You got to admit, I think I'd be handling that one with gloves. It's, ugh, look at it. Why would you try and sell something like that for that sort of money? But it's sold. This was a fantastic lot. Not really vintage paperback related, but they are paperbacks. It's the very earliest Marvel graphic novels. Absolutely incredible. All the good ones were there. In fact, I think it's all the ones. They're called Fireside books. And these reprinted all the classic and key and iconic Marvel origin stories. And they did have limited distribution, all of these in Britain. But all the scarce ones are there. The Strength and Fitness book, the Superhero Women. There's a box set of the first two, Origins and Son of Origins, and a couple of the DC ones that were published at the time. Seeing them, the fun book's rare. Seeing them all there in one huge lot filled me with nostalgia, because I used to have a few of those. They're great. Very nice indeed. A couple of DC ones there as well. $623. And this was a great lot. 500 vintage penguins sold for £538. No idea if they're firsts, though I imagine some of them are. What I think has probably sold this collection is that there's a good run of Penguin Classics, the Black Spined Classics, and the Penguin English Library. And that is what I think has sold that particular collection. And look, they look in pretty nice condition, don't they? So yeah, someone's got an instant penguin collection there, and well done whoever bought that. I think you've probably done all right there. Yeah, pretty good that. In fact, even some Ballard there I spotted. So there you go, as I leave you with this copy of Neuromancer, a beautiful fine copy of the second printing for £450. I hope you've enjoyed today's look at recent eBay sales. Thanks for watching today. Do hit that subscribe button if you've not already, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.